You're tuning in to CraigCast, the best in Web3, blockchain, NFT, and cryptocurrency technology. Great reviews, incredible interviews with the leading people in Web3. I'm your host, CraigO. Join me on my live stream as we go across multiple platforms, talking to some of the best people in the space. I've done well over 100 episodes, full-length podcasts gone live on multiple channels. All that to be said, CraigCast helps my community to plot, plan, strategize, and implement their next moves. I describe myself as 25% DJ. The other 75% is really steadfast to make sure that I understand the long-term implications of this space. I want to bring information to you. We might not happen to the same NFT community, but we are all here, and the bigger bet is on crypto overall. How will blockchain affect a world that will be fully tokenized in the next 10 to 15 years? Where will quantum computing be? How will AI, as it's already been a disruptor, how will that impact us over the next 5 to 10 years? So everything that we do on this stream is long-term in mind. I'm your host, CraigO. Let's get to it. Tonight, we're diving into AI infrastructure, operational AI, and how intelligent systems are beginning to reshape the way real businesses operate. I'm joined by Steven Hooley, who's an entrepreneur, developer, and founder of AINativeLang and ArmaraOS. Steven has built across enterprise technology, SaaS architecture, and AI infrastructure, with a major focus on creating systems that improve workflows, reduce operational friction, and begin to become a persistent in-memory intelligence into business environments. This is going to be a powerful conversation around where AI is heading and where businesses are still getting it wrong, and how operational AI may fundamentally change productivity over the next decade to come. Steven, welcome on to CraigCast. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Craig. Good to be here, and hello to everyone listening.
It's great to have you here, man. It's I think I came across 2 weeks ago. I was on a stream with you, or it was a space. Still not sure which to call it. Space with you and Fiddy, and he says, "Craig, you got to hear what's going on here." And I'm like, "All right, talk to me." And as we began to talk and kind of unpack, and I said, "Hey, here are a couple of the pains that are going on with me, with GPT, with Claude, and I'm having some issues." To say, "Hey, I want to share with you what I'm doing." And here we find ourselves tonight having a great conversation. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it massively as well. You know, I think, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. You're good.
I think a lot of businesses already feel like they have, they've used AI because they've got ChatGPT or Copilot in the browser, right? Yep. And that's real, and it helps. Like I'm not here to shoot down GPT. I'm not here to shoot down anything. But there's a difference between conversational AI and operational AI. And conversational AI is great when you want ideas and drafts and quick answers and maybe a little web searching. But that's what you're doing when you're chatting. And operational or agentic AI is when you need to do things, and we'll get into some of those examples. I'll expand more.
AI, right? When we think about, and that was probably the biggest delineation, is when we think about the conversational AI, that's what everybody was exposed to maybe 3 years ago. And right. Then you said agentic, which is operational AI, right, is driving business productivity. How many businesses right now are using agentic AI as its operational foundation or principles versus just that general conversational AI? What's the ratio if we had a pie chart?
I actually think the statistic I read is total for AI in general in the world is around only 2% of the world. So like you're really early. If you're tuning into this, you're so early to AI still, even if you've heard of ChatGPT. And I think that's a really powerful thing to know getting started in this whole conversation.
Well, let me ask you this question, because this is probably an easy one to kind of just start and expand upon. Yeah. You have, I guess, why do the AI systems, why do they lose both memory and security context over time? What's the number one reason, if there is one?
Architecture, for sure. I think first, a lot of products equate memory with chat history. And I think that's because most people's first introduction to AI is something like ChatGPT, where you're chatting back and forth. So you're equating memory with, but I told you this, right? I told you this. And you're saying you don't remember this, or you're acting like you don't remember this.
Yeah.
And that's chat history. A lot of those companies, you can go down a lot of roads, but you just have to think, number one, it costs them money to make those agents you're chatting with remember things. Number two, is it in their interest? And we can touch on this maybe later. I don't want to go too far, but is it in their interest to make things, make their AI agents remember things? Is it in their interest, right? So a couple questions just to frontline this. But when that window of chat history fills up and your session ends, the model's working memory is gone unless something else saved it, whether it was the company or whether it was you. And I don't know about you guys, but I copy and paste important stuff to my notes or a doc or something, right? And what I found is that most people using AI agents are still treating them like those prompt loops. So even if you get in from conversational to operational, right, you're still treating it like that prompt loop, that conversation going back and forth. And I don't think that's good for production workflows.
Okay. And how does AINativeLang, which you've created and you are the founder, how does it approach persistent memory differently, especially in terms of managing the sensitive environment?
Very uniquely, actually. So we took a pretty deliberate stance on memory, that it shouldn't just be a longer prompt. It shouldn't just be your chat history or a flat file. If you research a lot of the things that have come out, trending stuff, whatever, you get a lot of the time, you get chat history and you get flat files. You might hear it like a memory.md. You might hear it like whatever. But the more robust agentic memory implementations that I found get into things called vector databases. And those can vary, right? The implementations can get really cool. But in our worlds, in our world in AINativeLang, it's closer to what we call the knowledge graph. You've got episodes about what happened, facts about what's true about this, in this case, in business, this client or this system, or just your project, your workspace, what you're doing, what you're asking it to do, procedures, how to recover when something fails, and in our little bit of pioneering, persona style traits, how this agent should behave, right? And that's a little bit of pioneering we've done on the persona side. So Armara is our desktop application powered by AINativeLang, which is inherently a programming language, or the technical term is graph native IR substrate. So Armara persists a lot with that per agent. You can have a whole fleet of agents with it. And when you're talking memory, we employ a real graph native database architecture, not something pasted from a summary in the chat, not even just actually even a vector database. And our philosophy is the execution can become the memory. When tools run and delegations happen and workflows complete, that gets recorded into a structured graph. And then the next turn can actually use that graph, and it can all happen live. So for sensitive environments, that works when you pair it with things like governance and scopes and all these different things, permissions, tools, capabilities. But we take a very, very different approach.
I love that. By the way, we're gonna go like this, so we get the lights back on. Yeah. There we go. No, I love that. And you brought up a couple interesting things. One is you said vector databases and you said knowledge graph. And yes, well, obviously, to anybody that's tuning in on LinkedIn, YouTube, and X, you're talking to someone who's pretty a genius mind. Maybe you won't say it, but I'm going to say it for you. And someone who's well astute to what's happening here in AI. And so if you have a business and you're tuning in, and whether it's products or services, and tonight we're going to talk, because this live stream right now is being sponsored by your tech team. I'm actually just took a position there about a week ago, 2 weeks ago now, to be exact, with my dear friend who built this company over 25 years. But as I'm hearing these different things, as you say, knowledge graph and vector data, I feel like there's a lot of vocabulary being thrown at the everyday person going, what do I make of this, right? So I want to dumb it down. I always like to say talk in a between a third and a fifth grade level elementary. People have products and services. What is it that they need to know about ArmaraOS? And then let's talk a little bit about AINativeLang and how they're different yet similar.
Yes. AINativeLang is that technology underneath the hood. ArmaraOS is the desktop application you're going to install. Just like you install an app on your phone, It's an app. And so we treat ArmaraOS like an operating system. It's got its own kernel, it's got its own runtime, it's got its own engine, but underneath the hood, it's powered by AINativeLang. That's that programming language and that unique graph native technology. And what people really need to know is our agents, when you build with AINativeLang, the graph native thing, if you're non-technical, it's going to sound foreign. So what you need to know that it translates to is agents, when you talk to them, AI, when you talk to it, it thinks in math, and we'll leave it there. It thinks in math. It doesn't actually understand the language, the human words you say to it. It thinks in math. So what that translates to is it works better with graphs. So if we just hop over to what does that give us? What does that give us in business? What does that give us in life when we use those kind of agents? Right. It translates to they have better memory implementations. The way we've tested it, the way I strongly believe the way we've tested it, we've had stellar results, stellar benchmarks, honest benchmarks in our GitHub, which everyone can go find, with memory, self-learning, learning from failures, because those are important too. I'll touch on those and a couple other points as we progress through this, but absolutely. Failure learning, and just overall, the agents get smarter. They learn and they get smarter and they get more efficient and they can evolve and then they get cheaper to run.
Okay. Using your tech team as an example, this is the company that I work with that my friend started. We are an MSP. We provide cybersecurity, cloud-based infrastructure, voice over IP. We help to keep companies safe. And I wanted to use us as an example to kind of talk about how AINativeLang and ArmaraOS can actually help us to leverage the efficiency, our productivity, because both myself and the principal owner, Sam Disraeli, we play very different roles. And so I wanted to kind of talk about that, using us as an example. Where could these AI agents create the biggest operational leverage in IT efficiency that you can see from your end? And before we came on, we talked about utilizing your tech as an example tonight so that people could kind of get a real world use case for how it can impact a company.
Yeah, absolutely. So for companies, I think companies are much more diverse and have much different needs than average people, right? So if we go on that route, especially for an IT partner, an MSP like your tech team, I wouldn't start with something that says like replace your senior tech. I'd start with volume and repeatability, right? Ticket triage is huge. Classify, enriching things, suggest the right run books, and pulling client context before humans even open 5 tabs, right? That's a quick way to say, when you go to start something, you need to have the right agents, and you need to have agents that can do really incredible things, but responsibly, but also with security in mind, right? Which I know is very important to this company. So this could be a wide variety of things: scheduled health checks, certs, backups, drifts, code reviews, boring stuff that's, it's still going to be something that you got to get done as a business. And there's monitoring, right? So if an agent is doing a first pass investigation and needs to triage that information to the right human, or maybe another agent, but probably the right human, we need to know that we can trust that something didn't just break in that process, and also gets documented, is auditable, right? Reliability isn't just enough, it's auditability as well. And if we can really hone in, we want predictability, we want it, right? So good implementations, for things as simple as every resolved ticket is a chance to turn that tribal knowledge in a company into something that the next tech, whether it's an AI agent or the next human that the information is triaged to, is going to inherit, but not something that just lives in our Slack or in our chats, right? We want that to be a robust, reliable, auditable, predictable implementation.
I love that. For instance, in creating these AI agents, on AINativeLang and then utilizing them through ArmaraOS. And we'll kind of dive into that, sort of how they play their roles. One of the things that I thought about was triage and ticketing, because a lot of the times throughout the years, Sam and I have always touched base with one another on each other's businesses. And I always tried at a distance to understand a little bit of what he does. But because I came from this background of decentralized finance and really having incredible conversations with minds like yours. And by the way, you're probably one of the first where you're explaining it in a way that is just super exciting and really in depth for people to understand that you've got a real tool that works incredibly well. And I also think that there are these safety parameters that you speak of, and it's about having Sam during the day when he's going to a client physically to make sure that everything is running from the hardware aspect, and that when he's remoting in, that he has AI agents that have been battle tested and that he can trust, but that he can also control. So maybe if we can, I just want to dive in a little bit on the control factor, because if we create an AI agent, we use AINativeLang, and we're going to be talking together well after this episode to kind of figure out what you have in your suite of tools that will help us to be more functionally operational and also being better or more of a reliable source to our clients and just continuing to escalate and improve that. But how much time do you think somebody, when they come on board, right? Because everybody's creating an app, everybody's launching this new thing. How much time do you think from your end should somebody spend with their AI agent that they're creating through your platform or any other to really say, hey, I've got a good hold on it? What does that look like from your standpoint?
Obviously, I think it's the best answer to say first, it's going to depend on magnitude of the workflow and the type of workflow. But what do I know people want is people want reliability and security and things like that over just pure speed, right? I think that when you're dealing with an LLM or an AI, steps are probabilistic, and they're great at judgment in ambiguity, but in operation, in production, we want determinism. We want the same inputs, the same path, the same auditable outcome, and you need both with clear boundaries. And we want the models, we want the AIs to be involved, but what we believe is that we should strategically involve the models at certain deterministic points. And I think that reliability breaks when tools fail and the agent just hammers out the same bad tool calls or just continues on the same bad paths. Right? Good platforms surface when real errors are caught, maybe predicted, but at least caught. And then in our case, we try to teach the agents, actually not try, we actually have the agents teach themselves how to learn from those failures and propose new paths of how to be successful the next time. And so in ArmaraOS, this is why we have those self-learning and failure learning capabilities baked in, so the agents can learn from those failed tool calls and other patterns and promote the best moving forward. And in security, I think security context is hard in MSP land because you're multi-tenant by nature, right? And policy has to live in the runtime with hosts and what files and what APIs. And what I believe is you can't just say to the agents, the AIs, please just be careful and don't break things and don't violate the rules, right? We can't just say that. And and you can't just say that in the prompts to the agent and just trust that the AI is going to follow those things, right? So when it comes to consistency and reliability, I think that determinism is a major factor. Flexible and dynamic determinism, which I can cover more if you like, but I think that is very important.
Could AI remember a client's IT infrastructure as well as a best senior technician, but at scale? Is that possible?
I would say partially, if done responsibly. Your best senior tech has pattern recognition from 20 years of scars and battles. And AI is not replacing the judgment on weird edge cases. Let's be honest. Let's be totally honest, because that's what I believe in. What it can do is we can institutionalize the parts that scale. What's deployed, what's changed, what's failed last quarter, which fix worked, who owns the escalations. And I think the speed at which implemented, when AI is implemented, I think the speed that AI can triage information is going to beat a human. Think about it. If AI is receiving the information, it can send that out faster than we can collect and triage.
Right.
So I think when you take those things into account, junior techs and agents, they start closer to informed instead of just blank slates. But the catch is hallucinations, right? You don't want invented information. You don't want invented tool calls. You don't want invented client topologies. You don't want anything hallucinated. And that's where I think memory has to tie back into the concept of recorded work, and humans need to stay in the loop for anything that changes production. And that's
is that speaking more to determinism when you say about the memory?
Determinism to me is where we are. So one of the concepts in AINativeLang in general is you are deterministically programming a graph. When you program an AINL, AINativeLang syntax, you're programming a graph. So you could be programming the code or the logic, the persona. You could be programming the tool calls. You could be putting targets and emitters, adapters, all that kind of stuff into the graph, right? And so determinism is you have conversational AI. It's a prompt loop. We're going back and forth. We're chatting with the AI. And if we let that run the orchestration, not only are we burning through tokens, which could incur costs to the business, but we are also letting the AI and that prompt loop process decide what is happening in our workflows. What we believe in determinism is let's move orchestration deterministically into the graph. And then if we need to use the AI and we need to call an LLM for judgment, for reasoning, for whatever, we put that inside of the graph deterministically and strategically. And then we can predict, we can audit, we can do whatever we need to do. And especially when it comes to costs, but also just with the functions of what we're doing.
I love that. My head's just spinning a million miles a minute thinking about all of these things. When we speak about AINativeLang and ArmaraOS, for instance, I utilize ChatGPT or Claude, right? So with Claude, I'll utilize it on my phone along with GPT. On my computer, I use GPT.
Yeah.
How is someone interacting with your program, say with ArmaraOS? It's on desktop and AINativeLang. How does that all work from a user standpoint?
So quite literally, when it comes to AINativeLang, if you're going to use AINativeLang as a base, you can plug it in anything. You can plug it into all the trending AI agents that you can list in your head. You can give them a link to the GitHub or website, have them download it, have them install that tech. It's open source, Apache 2.0. You can do that. When it comes to Armara, more to your point, you just go to our website, you install that, and now you've got a desktop application that works from Mac or Windows. You've got an application that you can open up agents. And what do you want to do with these agents? Obviously, if you're hitting Armara, you're probably not just wanting to chat back and forth. You're probably wanting to do things. And then when you're a business, right? When you're a business, you are wanting to chat for a minute and then probably talk about workflows, things that you want it to do, but then do repeatedly later, right?
Right.
And so that's kind of where our philosophy, what we call compile once, run many matters, because you're not paying the orchestration tax of reinventing the plan on every run. The agents can listen to you the first time, and then the agent is going to work everything out, do everything, and then it's going to start writing a workflow, writing a graph. And that's what's going to be repeatable. So this is partially what translates to better orchestration and even token and API cost savings, depending on the magnitude of the workflow being done. And what I'd like to throw in with that real quick is,
please,
you can do that with Python. You can do that with TypeScript. You can do that with shell scripts. You can do that with Bash. You can do that with a lot of things. But in AINativeLang, we have two syntaxes, opcode and contact syntax. Super technical. So I'm gonna really just move this straight to the punch. Super technical. It ends up in most workflows, most AI workflows, most scripts, most programs, most graphs to be shorter, which means less tokens, less cost for the AI to write it than in something like Python or TypeScript. We want that. We want to spend less tokens smartly, intelligently, and efficiently so that we spend less as a business in AI costs, but we want to do it in a way that's going to produce something that it can be as powerful as something we can write in Python or TypeScript or Bash or whatever, and be integratable with all our existing technology stacks. That is one of the core things I want people to understand about AINativeLang.
So with AINativeLang, basically I can utilize I can plug it into my GPT and have it scan everything and say, here are the issues that are happening right now. So that's AINativeLang. I just want to make sure I'm getting this right from a user standpoint, right? And anybody that's tuning, go, what are these two different things? Right. With ArmaraOS, it's sort of like its own kind of free AI system where you create from the ground up. But the other one, AINativeLang, is going to allow me to plug in to my GPT. I can analyze, for instance, I'll use an example. I do my daily eating habits. What am I eating? How much protein am I taking in? And I'm realizing that just with my daily health goals, I'm watching my AI start to have amnesia. It's not hallucinating, telling me to drink Clorox, but the next bad thing is it's starting to get wrong. If I take a picture of food, I will notice that it won't give me the specific amount of protein that I was taking before. So I'm noticing these little subtleties. So I'm wondering, and I'm going to try it out, if AINativeLang as a plugin to my GPT will actually help to improve my overall AI experience, because we all experience these frustrations, whether, Sam and I were talking earlier today, right? So I've been out going into businesses, sharing how passionate I am about your tech team, because we do some incredible things, and Sam has for years, and now I've joined a board with him. And as I'm sharing with this excitement, I'm listening to what people are saying. One woman, I walked into her office, an incredible person, and she's having a son in August. So all these little bits, and she talked about her boss. And what's really cool is that as I'm walking out, I'm realizing how much time I have of my own real human memory. And then I'm corresponding that with GPT, and I'm saying, let's draft an email. And in that email, I already have a loop of previous emails with the information of what we provide at your tech team, like the voice over IP, cybersecurity, 3 layers of email protection, just talking on these little things, and then thinking about what those CTAs are. So it's really exciting to actually be able to, this week with you and Sam, to be able to plug in AINativeLang and play around with it. And then also separately play around with ArmaraOS. Now, let me ask you, you played around with GPT and Claude for hours amongst Gemini and probably many others.
Absolutely.
At what points were you like, are some better than others? We don't have to be specific, but are some better than others at things that they fall off the cliff, and are others just, they're bad from the beginning, and we don't have to mention specific names?
Yes. So one thing I'll add real quick is, if you are already using a system that you already love, you plug in AINativeLang. If you don't have a system, or you want to try something we have built and implemented on top of AINativeLang, that's your Armara. Just to clarify that. And with the other systems, so I have used Claude, I have used Grok, I have used OpenAI, I have used the lot of them, right? And I think that actually, I think I can give you a really good answer. If you want a logical workhorse, and depending on how high you go in each of these companies' models that I mentioned, is going to be your cost and expense. But if we can move that to the side for a minute, if you want a logical workhorse, you go ChatGPT. It's young. It's like the intern who kind of actually does know something and is actually like smart and intelligent, logical, a little brilliant, and it's going to work really hard. If you want like a seasoned adult, abstract thinking, really, really good at design, Claude, right? Both of these things are really brilliant technologies, but they're going to have their strengths. And I've battle tested them. Grok is like the hot, like new, like I need something smart. I need something that's going to run fast. I need something cutting edge. And it's probably going to blow me away, and it's going to run real fast. And Grok's good at that. these technologies, I think what I'm trying to say is know what you want to do.
Right.
Before you just want to try everything out, or even if you don't know which one you should try, know what you want to do. And then different ones have good strengths.
Look at it this way. 2 weeks ago, I didn't really know you. You didn't know me. And we connected. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, I got to have him on. When you started to speak, I'm like, he gets it. So I will tell you that Grok was incredible. I still call it Gronk. Grok was incredible because it gave me a lot of really good information on you, personal, but then also real things that you have accomplished. Like you've been in Forbes. You were in Yahoo. I mean, you've traveled the world. You've done some incredible things. So I want people afterwards to appreciate this conversation and then think, how am I going to expand upon it? But it allowed me to have a metaphorical seat at this table to conversate with someone who's created and a creator at that. And my biggest question for you right now, right? And I know it might sound redundant, but I keep this sort of this repeat loop when I look back at the questions as preparing is, how do you see AI agents evolving to support both cybersecurity and operational workflows in the next few years? And it's redundant, but I want to revisit it for a reason.
Yeah. I think, just to preface, I'm not a cybersecurity specialist overall, but I think we move towards specialized agents that delegate, not one omniscient bot. So one of the beautiful things about AI agents is they can be trained and equipped to be specialists as well as delegators. So, read-only recon, monitoring agents, I think we need to be specific about what we design agents for and what they delegate to. And, then agents can prepare fixes, and we can have them either have approvals, right, with humans in the loop, or we can have them do things automatically. I know that companies like Anthropic are starting to produce more and more of their code completely agentic, with less and less humans in the loop, with more and more agents. And I think that agents can also be incorporated into businesses to just purely triage information to more specialized agents, or even more specialized humans, right? Because humans, we have all these different departments in businesses and different things, and we need information fast. Agents AI is really good at give it this information, get it back fast. That's what it's really good at. So when you add in deterministic workflows of, okay, well, here's this information, give it fast here, give it fast here, give it fast, right? So, then it comes down to playbooks that connect ticketing, infra APIs, different signals, audit trails, compliance, logs, and everything that people can actually read and decide what to do with it. And I think security and operations already think in terms of runbooks and evidence. And the platforms that win will look more like less improv and less chat loops, and more like replayable procedures with, let's add on a little bit of memory, let's add on a little bit of self-learning and things like that. I think that in years to come, we're going to see AI agents become more like infrastructure, less like things we chat with, and more like infrastructure. And we want them to be reliable. We want them to be predictable. We want them to be auditable. Those are the things we're aiming for.
So that brings me to this next part, because you got me to think about tokens differently. When my mind hears about tokens, of course, memes and AI, and but AI tokens, you could talk about L1s and L2s, and oh my gosh, we can't run out of tokens. But tokens in the context of AI is very different. Can you explain to me what tokens represent in this world? Because right now we've got a lot of free stuff. It's sort of like, hey, try this drug. You like it? Let's get you hooked. And then you're coming back because you need the better, you need more. And I feel like this is sort of the addiction connection period. And I don't mind paying for good AI if it provides value and isn't so forgetful. I'll value that more. What are your thoughts, and how do you expand on what tokens mean in the AI sense?
Well, I think, to preface this, the AI companies are betting that you will want this and need it so badly it's going to become like your next utility bill. I really do believe that.
Agreed.
They're putting every dollar on intelligence. Sam Altman says this himself, that his company is betting on selling you intelligence, and that it's going to be like your next utility bill, and that you're going to want to pay for it. Now, what is tokens? So tokens, when you type in anything to AI, when you type in words, what's really happening is AI, I'm going to try to keep this as
You're good. This is great, man.
AI is going to do math. Okay.
Yep.
It's going to do math. There's vector space. There's these things that get matched up, but it's going to do math. And the measurements and how we're going to quantify this, how we would quantify this on the technical end, how the company is going to quantify this is tokens. And that is so high level, it's not going to do it justice. But what you need to know is when you chat, you are incurring tokens. When it's giving you information back, you are incurring tokens. Other companies meter and track these tokens, charge you for it. That's the realistic view of what you need to know. And so when you think about AI agents, when you think about chatting, and you think in terms of memory, well, is it in their interest to give it memory when you're having AI do things? Or is it in their interest to keep you prompt looping and spending tokens and incurring more tokens? Right. And I'll just leave that there. By
the way, I was coming to this question. Sam put it in the background. Will there be a point when tokens make AI workers more expensive than human workers?
It's already happening. So if you look at all the recent data for the news, let's not call it data, let's call it news, for companies that have fired, mass layoffs, and then they started implementing AI workflows is what they report. Okay. And then now you're looking at these same companies, couple big ones to not necessarily name names, but a couple big ones are turning around and going, we're not going to use these other AI companies anymore because it's too expensive. So you're telling me you fired a bunch of people, thousands of people, and then you had the people that you kept use AI, but had them stop using AI because it's too expensive. So you started using AI and agentic workflows. Now my question would be, are you using your own AI? Or are you still using other AI? Like what you're seeing is literally the costs of, it's called infra, it's called API costs, it's called token usage. You're seeing this price go up and up, and you're seeing these companies decrease. So they sell you subscriptions commonly, right? And originally, like 2 years ago, you could get a $20 subscription from multiple different companies and do some really cool stuff, really, really cool stuff. And you could literally that's where vibe code started coming out. All these cool projects started coming out. Now you flash forward to today, and that same subscription, you're getting metered on the usage. So you're limited in the usage. You're getting limited on how you can use it. And then if you go over the usage, you're paying metered costs, overages. So like, think about it. It's like we're back to the AOL days. We're back to the like cell phone days where you had to pay a base for your phone number and then pay for the minutes, is kind of like where we're sliding back. And if you think about that, people bought into originally the subscription thing. And I'm going to have not necessarily unlimited usage, but I got used to almost unlimited usage for a cheap cost. And now you just look at where we're at.
Yeah.
Costs are going through the roof. And you measure that, by the way, in tokens. Because if you follow a talk by Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, he talks about tokens per watt are going to become every business's biggest bottom line in the near future. If you're going to use AI, if you're going to be implementing AI, tokens per watt just means when you chat to the AI and that math is happening, on the other side, there's electricity. There's data center, right? Electricity, cooling the data center, having the math happen, tokens per watt. And that mathematics and the tokens it takes, all that's getting charged to you. And your subscription, smaller, growing smaller in value. Your metered usage and what you're getting charged over that, growing. And I think that's a real problem. I think really that doesn't just raise the idea that AI is being bet on as your next utility bill. It's being bet on that you're going to keep trying to afford that. And who is going to be able to use AI? Is it going to become something where we have a bunch of free AIs or cheap AIs that are just kind of metered and thrown, and then only the wealthy are going to be able to pay for the really intelligent, really good stuff? Is that where we want to head?
I don't think so. I think we all get to define, and tell me, and again, this is just from a user standpoint, we get to define our AI experience,
right?
Where we put our time and the information. So for instance, I had to push back on GPT. I'm on my 4th book this year, actually 5. Actually, I just started reading a cybersecurity book, and I'm pretty much halfway through that. But as I do that, I'll take pictures of the page and I'll say to GPT, make sure that I'm really understanding it. Because when I was younger, I really wasn't. I wasn't an avid reader. I've now started to make that part of my daily routine, whether it's 15 minutes or 30, and really taking my time. It's not how fast I can read, but it's making sure that I'm really retaining the information and working with AI, which is much smarter than myself. Even if it goes off the rails, it can come back on much faster. But a couple things that I think are important, right? Is the first word I think is trust. And like I said, a couple of weeks ago, when we were in an X space and we're having that conversation, I still want to call it Twitter all the time. You exemplified and embodied trust. And then when I started to look into AINativeLang and we had a conversation, I'm like, this man has trust. That's one thing that AI cannot replace. That's first. And I maybe want to talk a little bit with you about in the next few minutes. And then also I thought about the word capitalism. It came in, and I love free enterprise. And I love real capitalism, not crony, but invest in competition. So when I look at us as an MSP and I'm going into an office and we're having a conversation, we're building trust. We've got great enterprise tools. And again, that's more in Sam's lane. And we're coming in and we're saying, this is how we're going to make a credible impact on your company, right? It's trust, but they also know that we have the resources and the knowledge and the whereabouts to make this happen, to keep them safe, to have them operating in the most functional manner. That to me is fair capitalism if we're competing against someone else. With AI, it's sort of like this, it's sort of like a diamond. You look at a diamond and you're not sure at what angle you're looking at it from, because there are all these costs, as you mentioned, API, tokens, subscriptions, meter usage. These are a lot of things that are hitting people. And then at the same time, you're having to change how your brain functions so that you can correctly communicate.
And they're changing it on you, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
So that was a lot. But I want to talk to you a little bit about trust, like, because you have a platform, and I said to you, anything that we download, we look at and scrutinize, and I'm excited and I'm looking forward to it. But I was able to have that conversation to say there's this trust built here. How do we get more people to engage? And once we've had our real heavy come through, I'm going to be on it like crazy. How do we get more people to click on the right links so that they can utilize your tools? Because everybody will go into the App Store. It's like, oh, GPT's all over the news. How do we catch the meta for AINativeLang and ArmaraOS? How do we get people engaging with your incredible tools?
I think that if we form strategic partnerships, like with you guys, and I think that when we form those strategic partnerships, if we do a good job and we have good tech and we prove that behind the scenes, as well as publicly, that, people trust you guys. And then we have the public portions that trust us. And so people can go to our website, people can go to GitHub, people trust things like GitHub, people have faith and trust in us, and people have faith and trust in you. But I think that collaboration and partnerships, where if we do a good enough job for you, then maybe we get put on your website, or maybe you guys recommend where to find us. And I think things like that are underrated in the AI space right now, because I think that right now, everyone can vibe code anything and everyone can just do anything they want and find all the information on the planet that they want. But at the end of the day, when you have trusted people, trusted voices, trusted platforms, trusted partnerships, and they start recommending each other, I think in a world that has a sea of infinite information at this point, and almost infinitely what you can do, you need to understand who trusts who and who is recommending who. And then when, say you recommend us on your social media platform of choice, your website, wherever, you pay attention to those things. The most easy way to put it is validation and referral and recommendation. But I think it's going to matter more than ever in today's world. I think it's going to matter more than ever.
I love it. going back to the beginning of the conversation, I took some pretty copious notes. This is how, and selfishly for me, I learn off of every guest I've ever had on, but this right here is brain just going boom. When we look 5 years from now, what will differentiate, and this is a really good one, businesses that integrate operational AI from those that maybe use more conversational context?
Right. I think that businesses that treat AI like infrastructure, even if it's boring and measured and maintained, versus businesses that still have impressive chat demos, but kind of repay, whoever's chatting back and forth, which is probably going to be the seniors or the juniors, but you're gonna pay for that time, those tokens, as we established earlier. For every problem, I think the businesses that treat AI like infrastructure are going to end up winning. For MSPs, especially integrators, will have the lower cost per ticket, faster onboarding, better retention, long-term outlook, of course. I think those who are slower to adopt certain policies, procedures, and technologies and things like this, but I think keyword feel AI enabled, aren't going to have that compounding effect that who I'm mentioning, previously is going to have. Early adopters, even though it can be a little bit dicey, even though it can be a little bit complex, even though it can be a little confusing, there's experts you can hire. There's long-term research you can do. There's tests. There's lots you can do that if you adopt this stuff now, right? We're so early to AI. In the very beginning, I mentioned, I think the statistic I saw was only 2% of the world is really actually using AI right now. You're so early.
I'm still blown away by that 2%, because it feels like it's everything. When you hear something on the news, you feel like it's also consuming, but it's very small, minute number of people that are currently using AI as it is. And, it was interesting. I was going to get into this, and I didn't know tonight where we were going to kind of go down this sort of AI rabbit hole with you as a creator and a founder and somebody who's really notable in the space, as well as with the things that you've created, AINativeLang and ArmaraOS. But my promise, looking into this camera, to everybody who's tuned in tonight and beyond, I'm going to be diving into AINativeLang and ArmaraOS in the coming weeks, testing it, plugging in AINativeLang into my GPT, trying ArmaraOS on its own, trying to get a feel for what you've created. But based on your experience, it seems like you've done a lot of incredible things, and I'm really excited to go down that path with you. In the Play Store, Google Play Store, Apple, whatever, when someone downloads something, they feel like, oh, this is great. It's a tool. It's in the App Store. How important do you think for AI products in these stores on people's phones? How important is that to credibility, or do you think that's kind of a big nothing burger?
Actually, real world use case. So we don't have a mobile app yet, but we do have Windows and Mac apps. And when you go to install our applications, because we're new into this, we've established, I've got a good history in technology. I've got over a decade of technical history, but this technology, we just launched it this year. We just made it public this year. And so when you go to install us, from our website, you're going to be able to click that. And I think it's important, because I think that when Microsoft says, hey, I trust this, I think that when Apple signs off, and there's more technical aspects about like developer stuff and how you sign off on these certain things, but I think it's important, because I think overall what you're doing as a business and as a creator is, I'm saying, I don't just put in the time and effort to create what you're seeing now on your screen. I also put in the time and effort to go verify with trusted powers that be, with verified powers that be, and say, yes, I want to put in this effort so that you will recognize me as the same. And that's a hard path. Don't get me wrong. It's not the hardest path, but there's a lot of work that goes into creating applications, getting through the app stores, getting through the app stores mobilely, getting through the app stores on desktops. But I think it is important. I think it's just as important as going back to creating relationships like this, where I show up, I speak, I talk, and we create trusted relationships where we impress people, but prove to people enough that we're worth you trying us out. And then we do a good job with that. before and after.
So this is tonight for the perfect examples why I went on LinkedIn, why we've also gone on X and YouTube for quite some time, is that it's not just one vector. I love X.
Right.
I love the degen, DeFi, meme, NFT space. I love it. But all that to be said, there are so many people that need to continue to hear your message. You're building one based on trust, technical experience, and longevity. And something that before AI was something that was being heard about, it's now being felt through people like yourself who are building incredible tools that people can really utilize. And I think that's really important. And I'm so happy that over this past hour, we've gotten the chance to really unpack that. I'm looking forward to diving into your tools. Is there anything from tonight's conversation, one, that resonates? And is there anything that we haven't covered this evening that we might want to discuss a little bit more before we end?
I think to keep it short and sweet, I think bottom line for SMBs and MSPs, bottom line for people, maybe you want to build something at home. Maybe you want to do something on the hobbyist side, or maybe you are listening to this and you're thinking, I want to try this out for my business. If you already have systems you like using, agentic systems you like using, you're going to go AINativeLang, go get our GitHub on our website. You're going to go that route. If you don't have something to have AI agents all put together and be chatting with them and then have them just do stuff after you install an app, that's going to be Armara. But at the end of the day, what I want you to remember is you don't need AI that talks better. That's not today's world that we live in anymore. We're past the point where AI is talking better. We are to the point that you need AI that remembers you, what you say, or your clients, that respects boundaries, runs the playbooks, and with people still in charge that matters, whether it's you, whether it's your team, your ops team, whoever. And, I think we've gone pretty deep into all this. But if anyone has any questions or anything, we have open doors, and I appreciate being able to be here and teach people and share all this with everybody. I couldn't be more honored and more grateful.
Well, the feeling's mutual. And when people look into your body of work, Steven, they're going to be quite impressed. I want people, if you're on LinkedIn, go follow Steven Hooley. And also, if you're on X and you're a degen like me, go follow AINativeLang. They are verified with the gold check mark. So that means he takes seriously what he's doing there on that platform as well. We could talk about tokens, but we're going to save that for another episode. I think more importantly, I want to have you back. I want to dive in further over these coming weeks. And I want to come back to our community and say, hey, these tools are tried and true. But more importantly, I wanted to get to showcase who you are as a person and what you've built. And I really appreciate you spending this hour. And for all of you that tuned in, again, this is being sponsored by your tech team. We are cybersecurity infrastructure. I'll be posting that this week on my LinkedIn page as well. We appreciate everybody tuning in this evening. Steven, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you.
Thank you guys too. Thank you so much for everybody who listened. And I cannot wait to give more to not only this platform, but give more to just everything that we've put forth so far and just keep this train going. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Absolutely. And quick shout out to Fiddy for helping to make this come together. We'll see you guys soon. CraigCast signing off.